Hello, hello, everyone. We are live. So as we welcome you guys in for this track, we hope that you're enjoying DemoFest so far this morning. Welcome again. Thanks for joining us for Storytelling and Demos with my friend Natasha Bax. My name is Garrett Erickson. I'm one of the Senior Product Marketing Managers here at Consensus, and I will be moderating today's session for you. DemoFest is presented by Consensus. Transform how you sell with Consensus, the first product experience platform. Revenue and go-to-market teams automate demos, drive faster decisions, and accelerate growth. You can learn more about how this works at goconsensus.com or click watch the demo at the top of your screen there, and you can experience it for yourself. We want to hear from you in today's session. So there's a few different ways you can engage with us. They're all on the right side of your console. The chat function will allow you to connect with Natasha as well as with the other attendees here. So you can make comments during the session and highlight what resonates with you. We also invite you to participate in polls as you see them in the sessions that you guys are in. And then there are also helpful resources in the Docs tab that you can look at there. And then lastly, Natasha's going to have some question and answer period at the end of her session. So go ahead and go to the far right when you have questions for Natasha and go ahead and put them there so we can flag those, highlight them, pin some of the top comments and questions, and get to those easier. If at any time you experience any technical difficulties, go ahead and head to the bottom of your screen. There's a little gear there where you can get some help. We also have this document that we've put together that will help you troubleshoot some common issues. Okay, now for the reason you're all here, it's my pleasure to introduce my good friend Natasha Bax. She's the president of Great Demo for EMEA, and she spent 20 years helping companies improve their software demos to achieve better results. As the founder of the demo scene, she's worked across industries to transform how teams approach demos, focusing on customer-centric storytelling and effective delivery. Natasha's experience includes years as a solutions architect at SAP, which gave her a deep understanding of the challenges that pre-sales professionals are facing. Her methods, which are rooted in great demo methodology, are practical, proven, and designed to help you succeed. With that, I'll stop my screen share and hand it over to you, Natasha.
Thank you, Garrett. Thank you for the introduction. Let me share my screen so you can all see this. Yes, it's there. Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for being here. I've seen there's a great crowd, and thank you for saying hi. I think we've all sat once through a demo that felt flat, like a product pitch. Too many features, not enough relevance. Now, let me ask you a quick question while we get started. Have you ever been on the receiving end of a demo that felt irrelevant? Just drop a quick yes in the chat if that's you. And let me see if there's a lot of yeses. Yes, yes, yes. There's a lot of yeses popping up. So today we're going to talk about how to do better demos by telling stories, how to build demos that feel like conversations and sound like your customer's reality. Because when your prospect feels seen, they listen, they start trusting you, and they lean in. Now, in this session, we'll cover, and we'll start with the hard truth. What makes demos fall flat, and how do you fix it? Not every story connects, especially when it's about us. I'll show you how to make it about them, about prospects, about your customers. What turns a demo into a story that your customer cares about? Great stories have structure and also do great demos. I'll walk you through one you can use again and again and again. What structure helps you land your message every time? And finally, when and how you can use storytelling throughout a demo, not just at the start. For example, when they ask questions to generate a vision on what's possible or to show a demo journey for a specific role. We all know why many demos don't land. They are too long, too technical, and too much focused on the product and its features. Not yours, of course, but we have seen demos that fall into this trap. I've seen all the yeses. Now, imagine you're selling HR software and an HR manager joins your call. She hears all about authorization profile, portal widgets, custom workflow builders, configurable dashboards, but not a word on how to fix a broken onboarding process. Not a word about how your solution reduces manual handovers, shortens time to productivity, or improves engagement. Here, what you see here is the biggest issue in most demos. We talk about our product. We make it about us when it should be about them. Demos should tell a story about the customer. Storytelling in demos is not about your personal story or your product being a hero. It's a story about your customer's reality, about their journey, their transformation. I believe that storytelling is not something that you add to a demo. Your demo needs to be the story, the transition that your prospect is about to make. Let's take a moment to think about how people process information. Stories relate to the right side of the brain, the older, the faster part of the brain. It's the part that immediately senses danger or recognizes patterns or reacts emotionally. And when giving demos, the right part of the brain is stimulated by compelling visuals, the bigger picture, and stories. That right part of the brain is much faster than the newer logical left part of the brain that you use when you calculate 76 times 344. That takes a bit of time. Or as Daniel Kahneman shares in his book, Thinking Fast and Slow, System 1 and 2. We use both parts of the brain to make connections and to make decisions. But here's the catch. The fast, intuitive side reacts first. The slower, logical side justifies the decision afterwards with facts. So when you do demos, you need to activate the right part, the right part of the brain at the right time. And that means compelling visuals, the bigger picture, and a narrative that connects with what matters most to the customer. So in demos, the stories overall relate to overall goals prospects want to achieve or problems that they need to solve. Storytelling for the sake of telling a story doesn't work in demos, especially not online. It often takes too long, and your personal experiences, well, they are about you. It shifts the focus away from the customer. And I believe the storytelling, again, is not a topic that you add to a demo. Your demo needs to be that story. It needs to be the journey. So how do we do that? It means that we need to guide the customer through their journey, to tell a story about them, how they can achieve that better future. And that's not about you. It's not about your prospect. Sorry, it's not about your product. It's about your prospect. You are not the hero. Your prospect is the hero in this story. And you're a mentor. And your technology is an enabler for them to achieve that. So let's break that down. When you tell a story in a demo, you are guiding the customer through their transformation. And ideally, you start the journey with them by describing the hero, the prospect's current pain. Yes, you make it hurt. No pain, no change. And next, you describe their future state, how the future looks like. And then you visualize that better future so clearly that they can almost feel it. You present a picture so they can see the bright future. Your technology enables them to reach that bright future. I'm going to make this very concrete. So you start a demo with the story about their situation. You let them know that you listened. You tell them what they told you, and you start on the dark side. The current critical business issues, the goals that are difficult for them to achieve, and why this is hard, the problems that they have with the current tooling. That's the dark side. And then quite quickly you pivot and you take them to the brighter future, where they can see your software, what it needs to do to solve these problems, and which value it brings when the problems is solved, their future state. Now, of course, to be able to do this, to tell this story about the prospect situation, you need to do discovery first, to find out what hurts, why it hurts, and what they need to, what they want to achieve and how they want to achieve it. Now, let me give you an example of how you can tell that story. Let's say, again, you're demoing to that HR manager, to the CHRO. So you might start your demo story like this. So thanks for meeting us a couple of weeks ago. And you share that your onboarding time for new hires is too long. Managers are complaining that you're losing credibility. Well, managers are complaining you're losing credibility in the management team. You mentioned that it's challenging to accelerate because the onboarding process today is manual. It lacks structure and nobody has visibility on the process. So what you said you need is a digital onboarding process with built-in collaboration and insights. You also want self-service capabilities for new hires. And you believe that when you would have this would reduce your time to productivity by 40%. And it will significantly save HR hours. And you let that land. You let that story land for a few seconds. Let them absorb it. Now, they understand the current painful situation and the brighter future that they want. They know where they are today. They know where they want to go to. Then it's time, so they understand the transition. And then it's time to help them to see it, to visualize that future. And I'm going to first ask you, we're doing another scenario. Now imagine that you're demoing to a CRO. And my question, after introducing the situation, my question to you is, how would you visualize their future? So here's the situation from that CRO. They are struggling with their go-to-market teams. Marketing, sales, and customer success, they're all operating in silos. And that results in disjointed handoffs, inconsistent data, causing pipeline leakage, slower sales cycles, and ultimately missed revenue targets. So what they said they need is a shared dashboards and full funnel analytics. They also want automatic workflows to streamline the lead to revenue process. And when they would have this, they expect to shorten their sales cycles by 20% and reduce the customer acquisition cost. Now, my question to you is, and I'd like you to type it in the chat window. What would you choose? How would you best visualize that brighter future to them? Type A, if you say, well, I would show a PowerPoint slide with our product overview. So they see exactly what they need to achieve their bright future. Or type B, if you would choose to show a workflow diagram showing the process in PowerPoint so they understand these handovers. Or type C, when you would choose for the full funnel revenue dashboard in your software. Or maybe you want to choose D. You would demo the process, starting with a new marketing qualified lead trigger, creating a deal, assigning it to a rep, an email alert to the rep with the lead context, take the lead into the sales sequence, close the deal, and trigger a customer success onboarding task. Now, what would you show first? How would you visualize that future? A, B, C, or D? And let me scroll. I see a lot of C's. I see some D's. Peter Sprague says actually C and then D. Good point. D, although I don't think C is terrible. C, C, B here and there. All right, what I would choose is option C, the full funnel revenue dashboard in your software. Why? Because it shows that CRO, the end state of an aligned go-to-market execution, a unified pipeline visibility and revenue performance. It's a compelling visual, a clear and beautiful, bright future, which they now can see with their own eyes. You've just shown them what life could be like when their teams are aligned and accountable. Now, for the people, that say, "Oh, I don't agree," let me give some feedback on the other options and why I believe they don't work as well. Well, first option A, the PowerPoint slide with your product overview. That's vendor focused. It's not customer centric. The product overview is about you, not about the CRO's business challenge. That's left brain overload. There's no emotional hook. B, the workflow diagram showing the process in PowerPoint, again, is left brain heavy. You're trying to explain something. The diagram is a logical explanation, but it's your process. It's not their story. The customer is not the hero. Your system is the hero. And your brilliant thinking is the hero. In some cases, not always, but very likely, they already know this process. They have already had a theoretical exercise painting that on the wall. So if that is the case, it can be boring too for them. Now, D, there's quite a few people that voted for D, demoing the full process. Well, in my opinion, then you're showing the journey before they have agreed on the destination. And besides this, it's a lot to take in. Very many details. And for a CRO, it could be overwhelming, showing multiple process steps to early risk disengagement. They're not asking at this moment how the sausage is made. They just want to taste it. And that CRO will likely never go through that process themselves. So what's the lesson here? Start with the outcome. Show the outcome first, immediately. Don't warm them up. Don't ramp up. Just start with what matters most to them. Why? Because attention is highest at the start of the meeting. And that's when they decide whether it is worth to spend their time. And by visualizing that better future, you trigger the intuitive part of the brain, the part that makes that quick decision. They instinctively, your prospect will know if they like it. And that wow they got by looking at that end result, that will stay with them. And the rest of your demo will be a justification of that wow that they felt at the beginning. So you present the screen and you tell them what they are looking at. And then you say, and this is how you can align your go-to-market execution, improving handoffs when everybody's using the same data. And this will help you to shorten your sales cycles by 20% and to reduce customer acquisition cost. And that CRO, they will likely think, hey, that's interesting. I'd like to have that in the future, to see that in real time, what my teams are doing. I'd like to track their performance. I'd like to spot these bottlenecks and drive accountability. And that's all from one place. And that's the moment when the CRO leans in and he says, that's exactly what I need. Show me how to get there. So that's how you can use the storytelling. Now you've brought them in this transition. They've seen the end result. Basically, the CRO has seen what they need. Your first story has come to an end. And by doing so, you have taken them on a journey from their current painful state to a brighter future. They've seen the outcome. They know what the future looks like. Now, important, resist the urge to show more. Resist the urge to over-explain. I know that moment. You've got their attention, they're engaged, and you think, perfect. They really want to know how everything works. Let me show them everything. All my good stuff. But here's the thing, less is more. And especially when what you have shown is already resonating. Now let your prospect guide the rest of the conversation. They'll tell you what matters most to them if you give them the space. Let them drive. Answer their questions. Now you're entering a different part of the story. Not a monologue anymore, but a two-way story, a conversation, and not a lecture. And now let me quickly pause here and ask Garrett if there's any questions that you believe are good to answer now.
Yeah, so the first one came through the chat, and it was about what percentage you had said. Someone was commenting saying 20%. So you had said a percentage.
Let me see if I can find that thing. Oh, yes. Yeah, in my example scenario, the CRO had said that they expect to save 20% time or will be able to reduce time by 20%, something like that. That's correct. But it's the information that a customer has shared with you.
Oh, okay. All right. That was a good clarifying one then. Okay, we have one that's come through. So Shauna says, I've had hesitations. I've had hesitations with calling out current processes a client has as bad because I don't want to call anyone's current processes, or their baby ugly. Do you have any advice on calling out a pain while avoiding placing the blame on them?
Yeah. So what I would do in the scenario that we just discussed was the CRO, the CHRO, and I was pointing at them by saying, you CHRO, we've had a conversation and you share that. And that can be painful for the individual. So what I would recommend in your demo is to keep it a bit more generic by saying what we hear from your HR team is that these are the goals that are difficult for them to achieve. And this is what's making it hard for them to achieve these goals. And I believe it's useful to make it hurt because, and I think I said that somewhere, no pain, no change. So it needs to hurt a little to become important enough to invest time, money, and resources in doing things differently. But you would, if you feel uncomfortable, instead of you say there is too much manual work, you could say something you would like to reduce the manual work. It's saying exactly the same thing, but it's positioned slightly more positive. But be careful. Well, again, but maybe that's the Dutch European way of doing things. So there might be some cultural aspects to this as well. Does that answer the question? Can the person that raised the question do a thumbs up or down or something that we know we satisfy that?
Not able to see that, but I think you've answered it. Yes.
Right.
So Shauna comment said, yes, you did. All right.
Okay. All right. Shall I then continue?
Let's do one more. So one more question
Yeah.
came through was from David. It says, what checklist would you give to your AE to ensure we have the info needed to show them the outcome first?
Yeah, you remember the slide with the dark side and the yellow, the bright side? But that's basically the information that you need. So you want to, from the dark side, you want to know what is the critical business issue they have, which goals are difficult for them to achieve, and why is that? What's the underlying problems? And next, you want to know what do they think they need from software, and what's the value they believe they can gain if they solve the problems. That's basically the four pieces of information. And if possible, I would recommend to get that information from the various stakeholders that are in your demos. So not just one person in the company, but the various stakeholders that will show up in your demo. Does that help?
I think so, yes.
All
And David
right.
says yes too.
Good. All right. Now, I was talking about let the audience drive, give them the space to ask their questions. Now, when they do ask questions, you can also use storytelling in your answers. So first you give a verbal answer to their question. And if needed, you show the capability. And then add storytelling to the answers. Consider saying something like, our customer XYZ, they wanted this capability too. And after implementation, they reported back to us that their onboarding time was cut by 40%. Now, why does this work, this kind of storytelling at the end of your answer? Because it connects their curiosity with a real world result. It makes the answer stick, and it shows you're not the only one thinking of this way. And you get that value message across. But be careful. Storytelling only works when it stays focused on the customer. Don't derail the moment with personal anecdotes. Let them stay with their own story. Now, when things are really complex and you get a question and you might think your audience might not understand, when you give a verbal answer or show it in the tool, you might consider using analogies or metaphors to simplify. But don't include them just because you have always done it. Something that was new and clever in 2022 or in 2019 or in 2015 or in 2008 might be very new by then, but it may be common sense today. If it clarifies, great. But if it's not needed, leave it out. Keep it short so they can focus on what really matters. Now, let's take a look at another powerful moment of storytelling. It is using customer stories in top of the funnel conversations to generate a vision of what is possible with your software in your prospect's mind. There are situations where a prospect wants a demo, but they don't want to do a discovery call with you first. They don't want to share problems and needs. They say, just give us what you got. They want to see something. And there might be many reasons why you have to do a demo and you don't know anything about the customer situation. So how do you use storytelling when you don't know the prospect situation or their desired future? Then you use your industry knowledge or you use customer success stories. You still tell a story. It's not about you. It's also not 100% about the prospect, but it's about someone like them. And you tell how that successful customer of yours, how they went from their painful situation to the brighter future, and you visualize it. The scenario, the process is exactly the same. And it also starts very similar. Do you remember the slide with the dark side and the bright side of the prospect situation? You can use that same concept and just adjust it slightly. So now you would say, what you start by saying what you've heard from other CHROs in the same industry. So you can start a story by saying, what we hear from other CHROs like you is that their onboarding time for new hires was too long. And their managers were complaining, and the CRO was losing credibility in the management team. And they shared that it was difficult to accelerate the onboarding process because everything was done manually without structure and nobody had visibility on the process. Same story, just a touch is differently. So you tell a story about another CHRO to let them know you're not alone. This is not just data, it's a mirror. And next, you ask a few questions to understand the prospect situation. Do a little discovery. So you ask, how does this compare to your situation? And you let them talk. You do discovery here in the conversation. And that information that you are gathering, you can use that later in your demo. When you tell a story about their situation, the situation you just uncovered. And after a few minutes, you turn to the bright side, again, using a customer success story. What they asked from us was a digital onboarding process with built-in collaboration and insights. And they wanted self-service capabilities for new hires. And after implementation, they reported back that they were able to reduce the time to productivity by 40% and save significant HR hours. This is a value story, but from your customer's point of view. And once again, you can continue with a brief discovery conversation by asking, is this what you have in mind too? You let them answer it. You ask a few more questions. And then it's time to show the future. You visualize that future by showing a software screen that shows that bright future for them based on the customer success story. And when you present when you present your software, you tell a value story. You don't do a feature tour. So you might consider saying something like this. What you see here is your sales onboarding dashboard. At the top, you see your hiring KPIs and your onboarding metrics. Below, you have a list of all new hires and their positions, as well as their onboarding progress and the tasks that they still need to do. Now, this information is updated automatically and is available for you at your fingertips. You say this, and then you connect it to their goals. And this will structure your onboarding process without daily efforts from your team. And that will help you to save many hours per month and help you to reduce your time to production time with up to 40%. Now, in my story, I just copy-paste the customer success story information. Now, let's say you've been doing a little bit discovery and your prospect has shared that the numbers are slightly different for them. Then you encapsulate their information in your value story when you show your software screens. So did you notice the structure when I presented the screen? I first told you, or you first tell them what they see, so they understand the screen. Next, you tell them how this will help to solve their problems. And finally, you tie it to the value that it brings to them. And now, going through this process, just 6, 7, maybe 10 minutes, you have generated a vision based on a customer success story. And this is a very powerful, repeatable pattern, especially useful in top funnel demos. Because in those early stages, you're helping your prospects build a vision of what is possible based on what you do well. And when that vision is based on someone else's success, it becomes more believable. It helps them understand that they're not alone. It opens them up for questions. It helps them to visualize the solution. And it makes the value feel real and achievable. Now, let me pause here before I go to the last part of, or the next part of the presentation. Garrett, is there any questions that popped up?
Yes. So there's one from Jasmine Fuller. She says, any advice for telling stories when prospects believe their current state is great or good enough?
Yeah, basically you can do similar what I just mentioned. You might say something like, but you don't do that in a demo. I would suggest to do it in a discovery conversation. So you might say something like, well, I understand that you're looking at that, and that's really good functionality that I believe is very useful. In addition to this, what we hear from our prospects is that they also would like XYZ. And after implementing XYZ, they mentioned that they were able to achieve 10% revenue growth or whatever. So what you're now doing is you're re-engineering their vision on what is needed. You add something on top of what they had in mind. So you're not saying you're stupid, but you just add another perspective. And then you check if this is something that they would consider as useful as well. Jasmine, is that answering your question? All right.
I
I
think
don't hear
so.
anything.
All right. Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, she says thank you. Sorry, that was in the Q&A.
All
I
right.
went to the chat to see if she had her answer there. All right, we have one from an anonymous
Okay.
person, and it
Quick one.
says,
Yes.
yeah, how do you work with a prospect in gathering requirements when the communication is owned by an implementation partner and you don't have visibility into who they are speaking with inside the prospect's business?
Yeah, that's a challenging situation. But what happens very often is that these implementation partners, they also supply you with a 100 pages document that describes what the client is trying to achieve, what the problems are, what they need to have, what they need to see, and sometimes also the value that they expect. And I would suggest using that document to highlight the dark side and the brighter side. Scan the document for the information that is shared by the implementation partner. And if you find that not everything is there, you can ask for this information. Because you need customer information, or at least prospect information, or at least customer information, because those are the ingredients that make the source for the storytelling. And if you don't have any of that, then you're left alone with functions and features. All right, there's one thing that I want to add, one type of storytelling. That's the demo journey. The steps you take inside your software that brings the story to life. And there's many different variations because not every hero looks the same. You've got the executive, or let's say the company being the hero. In this story, the focus is on the company's goals. The second variation is when there's operational people in your audience, staff. They're in your demo, and they can be heroes too. These people have a job to do. The people within the company who are using your software on a daily basis via their laptops, computers, or via their mobile phones. And the last category, those are the virtual stakeholders. Your prospect employees, your prospects customers, your prospects vendors, their suppliers, the hiring candidates. Those are not, these people are not present in your demo, but they can be heroes too. Even though these people aren't watching your demo, they play a central role. Your software should make their lives better, and the people in your audience are judging if these other people, if it's make their lives easier. The IT team wants to ensure safe access to all applications by all company employees. The HR managers evaluates employee self-service. The recruiter evaluates the digital process for the hiring candidate. And the procurement staff wants to see a supplier portal. The marketing manager wants to improve lead capturing via their website. I'd like to discuss these demo journeys one by one briefly in the time we have left. Now, when C-level people are in your demo, I would strongly suggest first focus on them. The executive or the company is the hero of the narrative. Your demo needs to highlight how your solutions help them achieve their high-level business goals, increasing revenue, improving operational efficiency, reducing cost. C-level cares about outcomes. They want to see how they can track KPIs to course correct when things go wrong. My recommendation is to show them a KPI dashboard and tell them that this information is available at their fingertips, and then show them how easy it is to spot issues and to take action. Keep it simple. These demos can be extremely short, as C-level people will likely not use the application themselves. Don't make it complicated by showing detailed process steps. They just want to know, will I get the insights that I need to lead? Staff, people who have to do the job by using your application on a daily basis, and they are sitting in your audience. Now your story focuses on how their daily job improves by using your software. So you show how it simplifies tasks, how it saves time, how it improves their work experience. My recommendation is to break up your demo into smaller segments and focus on one task for one role at a time. Show that that task gets easier and is done without repetitive manual work. Avoid the day and the live demo story. They sound good in theory, but in practice, you don't have time for a day in a demo. They are often too long, too detailed, and therefore they become confusing. You lose people along the way. And as a result, they perceive your software as too complex for them. Also, avoid demos with handoffs between people. Now I'm Karen from purchasing, approving a purchase request from Mark, and now I'm Steve from the warehouse scanning goods. The audience will get lost when you change hats all the time. They don't have a Karen in purchasing, and they don't have a Steve at their warehouse. It's just confusing. And it's also not representing the way things go in real life. Their purchase requests aren't received and paid in 30 minutes. So instead of bringing that all together, keep the story simple. Here is an often overlooked, but very powerful, but not so easy story type. In this version, the hero isn't even in the room. People or roles not present in the demo can be heroes too. They are virtually present. Your prospect wants to achieve their goals by having other people using your software. You have to show the journey of your prospect's customer to make an easy purchase through the website. A supplier who handles admin tasks, taking off work of the procurement team. An employee who requests a holiday via your application without needing HR. So the HR team can focus on strategic tasks. A hiring candidate going through a digital journey so the recruiter doesn't have to do all the administration and can easily filter good candidates. Your demo is a story going through the needed steps to prove it's easy for prospects, suppliers, candidates, customers, and employees. And in each case, your software is taking workload from the prospects team by enabling other people to do the work for them. The main thing your prospect is interested in is ease of use. When your prospect is no longer stuck in doing admin, they can do work that matters more, or do work with fewer people. Now, this virtual hero framework also is across different industries. For instance, in banking, showing the customer journey to apply for a loan or replace a card. Or in supply chain, how vendors submit their own documents. Or in telco, show how a customer updates devices and checks usage on their own. These are digital journeys, and most of the work is done by your prospect stakeholders, not by themselves. Your audience is watching and asking, will this feel easy for them? Because that's what makes it easy for me. Now, no matter which variation you use, executive, staff, virtual stakeholder, there's one golden rule. Each demo story should always align with what the audience cares about most, whether this is business impact or user experience. And your story should be around their focus, not yours, not your roadmap, not your features, not your process, but their world, their outcomes, their story. So let's recap. You've just seen how demo storytelling can take many shapes. Sometimes your audience is the hero, sometimes it's their customer or their stakeholder. But always the demo is their story, and your job is to guide that journey. Now, here's something I want you to remember. When people leave your demo, they won't remember every step you clicked. They won't remember every feature, but they will remember how the story made them feel. Did it feel clear? Did it feel relevant? Did it feel that it was made just for them? If the answer is yes, you've done your job. You don't need storytelling add-ons. You already have what you need. A prospect with a problem, a future state they want to reach, and a way to get there. Your job is to connect the dots clearly, confidently, and with care. Now let me get back to Garrett we've got a few minutes maybe. Are there any additional questions?
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you, Natasha, for that. Okay. This first question comes from Rashida Moore. She says, how has AI impacted SE's ability to deliver a powerful story?
I think AI can be a great help. So, for instance, what you can do is you remember the story, the prospect story that I shared in the beginning with the dark side and the bright side. If you would, let's say, prepare this once, and then you would integrate into ChatGPT your discovery notes, you can say, hey, ChatGPT, create that story for me now using my discovery notes with this customer. So this is how AI can help you. And the same when presenting the software. You can say, okay, I'm going to present this screen. Give me a story of how I can tie this to the problems that they have, how it solves the problems that they have, and how much value they might get from it. So you don't have to make the wording and to think about the wording yourself. AI can help you with that. And that speeds up the process. And in all honesty, my CRO and my CHRO example, I've used ChatGPT to help me preparing that story much quicker than 5 years ago. Is that the type of AI you're referring to in your question, or are you referring to something else?
She said yes, and she loves that. Thank you.
All right. All right.
All right,
Do
a
we have
couple more
time for another? Yes.
So we've got one from Joran. He says, how would you go about a prospect that has had a bad buying experience? So they really want to see um, that they can prove that they'll be able to get value.
So did they have a bad buying experience with you or with someone else? That's interesting. I believe that a customer that has had a bad buying experience, they need a bit more confirmation. So they want to see more details. Does that mean that is that in your first demo? No. Is it in your second demo? No. But they might want a third or a fourth demo where they really go into the details. The value story, the earlier you are in the buying journey, the more important it is to tie features with value. If you are later in the buying journey, to be able to do things easily, that it can be done, to prove that you have the capability is often enough. And you don't have to tie the very operational and detailed processes to high level value. That becomes less important. But they might want to see more. So these journeys for the, let's say, the employee sitting in the demo or the virtual stakeholder, those demos can be very extensively because it's a huge risk for them to invest in software where they cannot really influence that outside stakeholder to do what they want them to do. So that could mean they are heavily investing in a supplier portal and the suppliers are not using it. Then they have invested a lot of money. They don't get the feedback. They don't get the value out of it. Does that answer your question, Jeroen?
I think so. Yes. All right. Let's see if we have time for a couple more. One here from Selmaine says, how many discovery sessions or calls are needed on average before we get to that situation slide with clear business issues and the delta that they are experiencing?
This is someone who has been in a great demo workshop. She's using great demo or he's using great demo terminology. I would say, ideally, your sales counterpart, if you're not in sales, they are doing the first one. So they have a contact on quite high level in the organization, and they ask those questions. But in your demo, you might get more stakeholders, different stakeholders, and your sales counterpart might not feel confident in speaking with those people because it's very detailed topics potentially. So I would say, rule of the thumb, if you have 4 different stakeholders in your demo, if possible, try to have 4 discovery meetings or have 2 discovery meetings, one with your sales rep and one with the other 3 people involved. So you can you can bring them together in the call if that is what the customer wants. And then you can generate a story. You can break up your demo in smaller segments, and you can give everybody the story, the transition that they need to make, and visualize their future for them. Next
Wonderful.
question.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
We have time for one last question. So your third scenario resonated most with David W. And he has a question about how do you avoid going into too much feature detail? Wouldn't you be showing the steps an employee would take in a given software? How do we keep the balance with enough detail how do we keep the balance rather between giving enough detail and keeping it brief?
Yeah. So I would always suggest, let's say the scenario with employee self-service in the HR space. Now, I would suggest to start with, for instance, asking for doing a holiday request. And you do the holiday request in the simplest possible way. You don't talk about other options. You don't talk about multiple days. You don't talk about planning difficulties and all of that. You just ask for a holiday next week and you let the manager approve it. 2 clicks, 3 clicks potentially, and that's it. If they're interested in exceptions, you give them the opportunity to ask a question about it. If they don't ask for it, you've proven how easy it is. The more steps you add to a demo flow, the more complex it appears to your audience. So always try to limit the number of clicks. Make it as easy as possible.
Okay.
Yeah. Shall we conclude here? Can I say my final words, Garrett?
Please go for it, and then I will steal the screen share back from you.
All right. So I want to finish by saying I feel lucky to be able to do this work. Help people shifting from feature dumping and to real customer storytelling, because that doesn't change how we sell. It also changes how we connect and how we remember it. So if there's one thing to keep in mind, make your demo their story, because that's the story they remember. Now, thank you for joining me and thank you for caring enough to make your demos better. If you want to swap stories or compare notes, I'm just a message away. I believe my LinkedIn thingy is also available in the platform. So now I need to stop sharing my screen. Thank you very much, and over to Garrett. If Garrett is still here. Garrett, are you still here? Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for joining. Garrett, we cannot hear you.
How about now?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay.
So
All right.
go.
Apologies for that, everyone. My internet must have cut out. So again, thank you, Natasha. Thank you for everything. Before we let you go, just a couple quick announcements. We do have our vendor partners who are in their expo hall there. Please visit them. This is a free event. No one gets anything from this, but these partners go above and beyond to make this an amazing experience for everyone every year. Go ahead and go to that docs tab as well so you can participate in the raffle. We do have some great giveaways that are available. And so you can check the live leaderboard to see where you are every day during DemoFest. Now, the biggest announcement we have and the most exciting thing that we're bringing to you is that DemoFest is going on the road again this year. We had a great time earlier this year in San Francisco. We met some of you in person. And then we're going to be meeting many more of you in New York City and London later this year. So you can go to demofest.com or you can go to the docs tab again to get more information about all of this. Thank you again for joining our session, learning about storytelling in your demos and how to make your customers, your solution, and your champions the hero in these situations. Thank you again, Natasha, for sharing your knowledge and expertise with us. On the screen, you're going to see some upcoming sessions. You can continue on this track and be pushed automatically to the next one, or you can go and switch between tracks by toggling the agenda tab on the top of your screen there. With that, I'll stop my screen share. And again, we thank you all for attending and hope that you're enjoying DemoFest.